The night they sold her wasn't supposed to exist. Under chandeliers that bled gold and gilt, Lena Vale stood beneath a glass dome, while men in masks wagered on her destiny. What if the man who bought her was the ghost of a love she'd already lived? What if fate disguised itself in a tuxedo and regret? She didn't know that the highest bidder, Adrian Drace, was the same man who once promised her forever before the fire took everything. But the way he stared at her as if the world had stopped breathing whispered a truth that time had tried to bury. And as the final gavel fell, her soul remembered something her mind could not: the feel of his heartbeat in another life. The limousine moved through the city like a black arrow through silence. Lena sat opposite Adrian, her pulse a storm she couldn't calm. He hadn't spoken a word since the auction, but the air around him thrummed with something electric, something half-remembered. Why did his voice feel like déjà vu? Why did her heartbeat answer it? He studied her as if every second rebuilt an old illusion he'd once burned to forget. Outside, neon lights blurred into streaks of gold, reflecting two souls colliding with their past before they even knew it. At the Drace Tower, the air shimmered with unspoken memory. Lena followed Adrian into a private elevator, the hum of the mechanism echoing like a heartbeat between them. When his hand brushed hers by accident, she flinched, not from fear, but recognition. The scent of smoke and cedar stirred something deep, something she'd felt in dreams that never belonged to her current life. Adrian led her into his penthouse, a cathedral of glass and steel floating above the clouds. "You'll stay here for now," he said, his voice steady, but eyes restless. She nodded, though she didn't understand why his words sounded like a promise broken long ago. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the skyline shimmered beneath a waning moon that seemed to watch them both with ancient sorrow. Later that night, Lena wandered the hall lined with portraits, every one of them painted by the same hand, her hand. Her breath caught when she saw a canvas of a girl in moonlight, wearing her face but bearing another name: Evelina. From the doorway, Adrian watched in silence, the memory of flames flickering behind his eyes. The past was no longer a ghost. It was standing right before him, alive, unaware, and his once more. Sleep refused to find Lena. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw fire reflected in glass, and a voice calling her name through smoke. By dawn, she wandered into Adrian's study, walls of books, sketches, and a grand piano sitting untouched. Then she saw it. A single burnt photograph in a silver frame. Her fingers brushed its edge, and a spark ran up her arm like memory awakening. Somewhere deep inside, a whisper said, "You've touched this world before." And when Adrian entered barefoot, unguarded, she froze. Because for one heartbeat, she knew his soul before his name. He told her nothing about the photo, only that it was someone he once knew. But the lie trembled in his voice like glass ready to break. Over breakfast, silence stretched between them like a thread tied in another life. She studied him, the way his fingers paused before every sip of coffee, the faint scar beneath his jaw. And he studied her, the rhythm of her breathing, the ghost of recognition he couldn't name. The city below glittered, unaware that fate had just reopened its oldest wound. Later that day, Lena followed a trail of whispers through the art wing of Drace Tower. There, she found an old easel, covered in dust, yet not abandoned. The painting on it, half finished, was of her, wearing the same silver pendant she'd dreamt of every night since the auction. She reached out to touch the brushstrokes when Adrian's reflection appeared behind her in the glass. His voice, low and fractured, said, "I don't paint ghosts anymore." But the way his hands trembled betrayed the lie, because she was his ghost returned in flesh. Cassandra Vale arrived that evening uninvited. Her presence filled the penthouse like the scent of a coming storm. "You shouldn't be here, Lena," she murmured, her amber eyes flicking toward Adrian. He didn't recognize the woman, but something in her voice made the air shiver. Lena demanded answers, but Cassandra only pressed her pendant into Lena's hand and whispered, "Some loves are not meant to be remembered." As she vanished down the hall, Adrian caught a glimpse of the pendant glowing faintly blue, the same hue that once danced in firelight. Or should and sure, the same hue that once danced in firelight. That night, the storm finally broke. Rain lashed against the glass as Lena stood on the balcony, her hair wild, her heart louder than thunder. Adrian joined her, his shirt damp, his voice low. "You feel it too, don't you?" She turned, the wind tangling their words. For one reckless moment, she whispered, "I think I've loved you before." Lightning split the sky, illuminating their faces, two souls who'd already met and lost each other once. And though neither understood how, they both knew something greater than logic was pulling them toward ruin or redemption. Lena woke to the scent of smoke that wasn't real. The dream had returned. The burning estate, the sound of his voice screaming her name. She sat up in Adrian's guest room, heart racing, palms trembling. The pendant Cassandra gave her glowed faintly on the nightstand. When she touched it, the world bent. Images flickered through her mind. Firelight, a kiss, and a promise beneath a bleeding moon. Was she going mad or remembering the truth? Outside her window, Adrian stood on the terrace below, staring at the same rising dawn that once set their world ablaze. At noon, Adrian summoned Julian to his office. "Find out everything about her," he ordered, voice low and cold, though his hands betrayed a tremor. Julian's smirk returned, sly and knowing. "Already did," he said. "You won't like the truth." When the file hit the desk, Adrian froze. The report contained a photo, one he recognized instantly. Lena Vale was Evelina Thorne, the woman who died in his arms 7 years ago. The air thickened. Somewhere between disbelief and terror, a whisper escaped his lips. "Then who did I bury?" When he confronted her, his words trembled. "Who are you?" he demanded, though part of him already knew. Lena backed away, clutching the pendant. "I don't know," she whispered, "but I see you in every dream." The air shimmered, blue sparks swirling between them. Suddenly, the pendant burst with light, and the room warped into a burning hallway from years ago. She saw herself screaming his name, his arms pulling her from the flames. Then it was gone. Both gasped, staring at each other, realization dawning in silence. They were survivors of the same fire. Cassandra appeared that night, summoned by the awakening magic. Her face was grave. "You were never meant to remember," she said. Lena turned on her. "You stole my life." The enchantress sighed, her eyes full of sorrow. "I saved it. The curse was meant to end both of you." Adrian stepped forward, demanding answers. Cassandra finally spoke the truth. The night of the fire, an ancient vow bound their souls. If they ever found each other again, their love would bring ruin to everything they touched. And now, it had begun. That night, Lena stood before the mirror, her reflection flickering like flame. She saw two versions of herself, Lena and Evelina, the girl who died for love. Adrian entered silently, his reflection joining hers. "If this curse is real," he whispered, "I'd burn again for you." She turned, tears glistening. "And if it kills you?" His hand rose, brushing her cheek. "Then I'll die knowing I found you." The mirror trembled, its surface rippling like water. For a heartbeat, it showed them bathed in fire, kissing through the smoke of fate. The moon rose, like a witness that refused to look away. Adrian drove Lena to the ruins of the old estate, the place both their souls had burned. The road twisted through forests, drenched in silver light. Neither spoke. The silence was heavier than confession. When they arrived, She stepped from the car, trembling. The air smelled of ash and violets, exactly as it had the night she died. Beneath the collapsed roof, her old easel still stood, charred but unbroken. She touched it and the world flickered. Smoke, screaming, love. The curse was no myth. It was memory turned weapon. Inside the ruins, the air shimmered with ghosts. Lena knelt before a scorched wall and found faint words carved beneath the soot. Until the moon remembers. The inscription pulsed with soft light. Suddenly, the ground shuddered and images flooded her mind. She and Adrian years ago, swearing an eternal bond sealed by moonlight. But that vow came with a cost. Every time they found each other again, the world would demand a sacrifice. As the vision faded, Adrian fell to his knees beside her, whispering her name like prayer and punishment. Back at the car, Julian was waiting. His smirk was gone, replaced by something harder. "You were supposed to stay dead," he told Lena quietly. He revealed a silver dagger engraved with runes. "There's only one way to stop the curse." Adrian stepped between them. "You touch her, and I'll end you." But Julian's words cut deeper than the blade ever could. "Shall end you herself, Adrian. The curse always demands balance. One love, one loss." His truth hung in the cold air, heavy and cruel. Cassandra arrived moments later, her pendant blazing like a star. "Enough!" she shouted, her voice echoing through the forest. She turned to Lena, tears streaking her face. "The vow you made was sacred. Your souls are tied by the moon's covenant. Break it, and one of you dies." Adrian grabbed Lena's hand. "Then we don't break it." Cassandra's expression collapsed. "You don't understand. The moon always collects what it's owed." As she raised her hands, the pendant shattered into light, revealing the memory of the night. They sealed their love, two souls kneeling before a silver flame, promising for ever. When the light faded, they stood in silence beneath the moon. The truth was unbearable yet unbreakable. They were cursed to love across lifetimes, destined to find each other only to lose everything again. "Then let it be this life," Lena whispered. Adrian cupped her face, his eyes wet with devotion and defiance. "If the moon wants our love, it can burn trying to take it." They kissed, soft, trembling, defiant. Above them, the moon flared brighter, casting their shadows into one. For the first time, the curse trembled. The morning after the moon's flare, the city began to fall apart. Markets crashed, lights flickered, and the air itself seemed charged with chaos. Adrian stood before his office window, staring down at the empire he built crumbling in silence. Every heartbeat he shared with Lena seemed to drain his world of fortune and power. Was this the curse taking payment? When she appeared at the doorway, her expression soft, he realized he'd lose everything again. And still he wouldn't let her go. By evening, rumors spread. Adrian Drace's fortune was vanishing. Contracts broke, partners fled, and the empire, once untouchable, began to bleed. Julian watched from afar, satisfaction curling his lips. "The curse has started feeding," he whispered to his reflection. Yet behind his envy was something darker, a longing he couldn't admit. He had loved Lena once, before fate erased her name. Now he planned to break the curse, not for mercy, but to claim what was never his. At midnight, Lena awoke to find Adrian kneeling before the fireplace, head bowed, a faint blue flame curling around his hand. "It's taking me," he whispered. "Every time I love you, it takes more." She rushed to him, clutching his shoulders. "Then stop fighting it. Let me share the burden." The flame leapt between them, wrapping both in trembling light. For one blinding instant, she saw his soul, fractured, burning, beautiful. The curse didn't want his death. It wanted their surrender. Cassandra returned at dawn, drawn by the curse's pull. Her eyes were hollow. "The bond is shifting," she said softly. "If you keep fighting it, one of you will fade." Lena stepped forward, trembling. "Then tell us how to break it." Cassandra's voice broke. "To sever the bond, one must willingly die while the other chooses to live." Adrian turned away, silent, his reflection pale in the glass. Lena's voice cracked. "Then it's me." But before she could finish, Adrian's hand found hers. No, not again. By nightfall, Adrian vanished. The media declared him missing. His company dissolved into chaos. Lena searched every place they had touched, every room that still smelled like him. Finally, she found him on the balcony of the old estate, standing in the rain, holding the silver dagger Julian had left behind. "If one must die," he said quietly, "then let it be me." She ran to him, shaking her head, tears lost to the storm. "You think love ends in sacrifice," she whispered, pressing her hand to his chest. "But maybe this time it ends in faith." The dagger slipped from his grasp, and the moon turned crimson. The crimson moon bled across the city like an open wound. Lena carried Adrian back to the penthouse, his pulse weak beneath her trembling hands. Every light flickered as if the building itself could feel the curse tightening. She laid him on the couch, whispering his name through tears. Then the pendant pulsed again, brighter than before, Cassandra's voice echoing inside her head. "The heart that chooses love over life can rewrite fate." Lena understood. To save him, she would have to remember everything and offer herself completely. Julian burst through the door, breathless, his dagger gone, guilt carving lines across his face. "I never wanted him dead," he said. Lena turned, eyes glowing faintly blue. "It doesn't matter anymore. The curse is choosing." He watched in horror as the pendant lifted from her chest, hovering between them like a beating heart of light. "You can still save yourself," he pleaded, but she only smiled through tears. "I already did, once. It didn't work." Cassandra appeared once more, stepping through the shimmer of broken glass like a shadow of mercy. "You have one chance," she said softly. "The curse feeds on fear. Face it together or it consumes you both." Adrian stirred, voice weak but sure. "Then together." He reached for Lena's hand, and the room exploded in silver fire. Walls dissolved into the memory of that burning night. The same fire, the same vows, repeating. But this time, Lena didn't run. She walked into the flames. Inside the vision, Lena saw every lifetime they had shared. Kingdoms risen and fallen, promises made beneath moons of different worlds. Each love ended the same way. Fire, sacrifice, silence. But now she understood. Love wasn't the curse. Fear was. She turned to the spirit that haunted them, the echo of the moon's vow, and spoke the truth. "I am not afraid." The flames stilled. The curse hesitated, and for the first time in centuries, it listened. The fire collapsed into silence. When Lena opened her eyes, dawn had broken. Adrian knelt beside her, alive, his hand over her heart. The pendant was gone, its light absorbed into her skin. Outside, the city glimmered, untouched. He whispered, "It's over." She smiled faintly. "No, it's beginning." Cassandra watched from the window, her tears turning to sparks that vanished in sunlight. For the first time, the curse did not take. Love had chosen itself. A week after the dawn that rewrote fate, the city breathed again. Yet peace felt fragile, like glass waiting to break. Lena painted for the first time since the curse lifted, her brush trembling over a blank canvas. Behind her, Adrian watched quietly, the weight of 7 lifetimes softening in his eyes. Every stroke she made shimmered faintly with silver light. Traces of the magic that once bound them now pouring into art instead of fire. For the first time, creation replaced destruction. Love, reborn as color. Julian came to see them at dusk. His pride was gone, replaced by something quieter, remorse. I tried to break what I didn't understand, he said. Adrian offered him his hand, not as a rival, but as a man who had lost and learned. Lena smiled faintly, her voice gentle. The curse is broken, Julian. You can stop running from ghosts now. For the first time, he nodded without words, walking away into twilight with a peace he had never known. That night, Cassandra visited for the last time. She stood before Lena and Adrian, her eyes bright with tears and relief. It's done, she said softly. The moon's covenant has turned into a blessing. When Lena embraced her, Cassandra whispered, Remember, love is never meant to be painless, only true. As she turned to leave, her pendant reformed around her neck, glowing softly. The enchantress smiled one last time before fading into the light. Days later, they returned to the ruins, now a field of wildflowers where fire once lived. Lena placed a single white lily on the scorched stone and whispered, We forgive it. Adrian wrapped his arms around her, resting his chin atop her hair. The wind stirred, carrying the scent of lilies and rain. The earth beneath their feet glowed faintly, not with fire, but with rebirth. The past was still there, but it no longer hurt. It had become part of the garden. Under the full moon that had once cursed them, Adrian took Lena's hand and led her to the edge of the lake beside the field. The water glimmered silver, the same light that had once burned their souls. Do you still believe in fate? He asked. She smiled softly. No, I believe in choices. He kissed her, and the moonlight folded around them like silk. The reflection on the lake showed not fire, but two hearts beating in perfect rhythm. At last, the prophecy had kept its promise, not of ruin, but of forever.